Hey, and good afternoon, my beautiful lovelies. It's me, Nisi, back to do another video. Just ducked out of Chief Red Wolf's live stream. I think he finished it up, and I was over in his chat and wanted to shout out to Chief and to Millennials Best, OMAC, Original Lone Wolf, Dev D, Carrie Beak, all my family over there. So, without any further ado, I just want to get on here and read to you. So, yesterday we covered Murder of Reality, Hidden Symbolism of the Dragon, and I was reading to you a chapter that was called Smiling Angels, okay? And that was chapter 18. Today I'm going to get into Flying Serpents and Dragons, all right? And we're going to pick up where I left off, and I'm going to read to you chapter 6, the arrival of the reptilian gods on Earth, all right, on Key. So let's just get into it, all right? And this book was by R.A. Boulay, okay? So if you want to take a screenshot and add this to your repertoire, okay, to your library, please do so. And if you have a copy, I'm on chapter 6. Please join me as I read. So again, chapter 6, arrival of the reptilian gods on Earth. In our efforts to trace back in time the origins and antecedents of the Western ideas of dragons, we are steadily and irresistibly drawn back to the lands of Mesopotamia. It has been said by many historians that all roads lead to Sumer, okay, which we shall find is true, and that its rich tradition was the fountainhead of all dragon stories. Undoubtedly, Mesopotamia was a fertile ground from whence sprang all the legends and stories associated with dragons. Now, I'm not here to debate with anyone. You must do your own research, you must study, and you must understand when you go into deep meditation with fasting and prayer that you will recall all this information, right? It's within your epigenetic makeup, your epigenetic DNA, right? It's within you and your Rolodex of source connected to the All-Father or the Supreme One. People say God, okay? I say unnamed being in the void. My point is that the history that we've been taught is fictitious. It's a lie. And prior to this last reset or during the last reset, then this is what, like Chief said, Zionism took hold, a stranglehold over the civilization of the new humanity, right? Some books will say 800 years was added to a calendar. There are some books that say 1,000 years. I've read 1,000 years, right? But in this current book that I'm reading by Guy Anderson, he's saying, according to what he's uncovered, because he is a Freemason, all right, and he's in one of the highest orders, he is stating that the Vatican added 800 years to our calendar, all right? I'm going to say 1,000, okay, based on what I've read from a Zionist, all right, and he lays it out and explains it, okay? My point is that when we point to Babylonian, Mesopotamia, Sumer, we'll always point to look overseas in Africa. But what I'm telling you is, based on the information I have in my own library and my own research, the original foundation of this existence is here in Tartary, which is all around the world, but it's here in the so-called Americas, all right? That's your foundation. So all the countries were here. And what did they do? They split up everything and they started pushing it out to other locales all around this dome, all right? So when you say Sumer, Babylon, you say all these different iterations of time, you're looking at it here in the Americas, all right? I don't care how you feel, got to do your research. The Grand Canyon, one huge complex, nothing but ancient artifacts were found there. And they actually went in and took them out and shipped them overseas and put them in museums and other locations, saying that they were founded over there when they were truly here, okay? That's what I'm telling you. When you do your research, you'll see it, all right? Undoubtedly, Mesopotamia was the fertile ground from whence sprang all the legends and stories associated with dragons. It is here that we find the first allusion to flying serpent gods as dragons. After the deluge, okay, doesn't say which one, but it says after the deluge, keep in mind there have been 6, okay, we're the 7th generation, 7th reset, Okay. After the deluge, there was a terrible period of struggle when the serpent gods fought among themselves in the sky, and you can read it in the Vedic text because it's there. And when mankind retreated underground, all right, for shelter and survival, and there are hundreds of underground cities all around the world that the History Channel has shown, Discovery Channel. Many people have talked about it. It's all over on YouTube. It's in libraries and museums. You can go find that information, right? And it says, after the deluge, there was a period of time of struggle with the serpent gods fought among themselves in the sky. And when mankind retreated underground for shelter and survival, it was also the beginning of all the legends which associate the dragons with precious stones, the Sumerian king's list. And Guy says that this was actually, the Egyptian king's list was actually put together again by the Vatican, the Jesuits, all right? The strong arm or the military arm of the Vatican, okay? There are many Sumerian documents which refer to a group of gods that descended from the skies and established a civilization at the delta of the Tigris and Euphrates River. And that is here in the Americas, all right? The ancient Sumerian kings traced their lineage back this planet, traced their lineage back some 240,000 years, when according to their history, their ancestors came from this planet called Anunna, Anunna, their Sumerian name, or Anunnaki, their later Akkadian or Semitic name. They built a civilization here long before the advent of the deluge. The arrival and colonization of Mesopotamia by a group of ancient astronaut gods. Eric Van Daniken talks about it, the godfather of the ancient astronaut theory. Okay. Ancient astronaut gods were first proposed and reported extensively by Eric Van Daniken and also Zecharia Sitchin. Zecharia Sitchin took his work from Stephanie Dalley and a couple of other researchers. He didn't come up with this and he didn't pull it out of his butt. All right. He was just piggybacking off what was already translated by other individuals. So when people say Zecharia Sitchin was wrong, he is using translations from other people. All right. They're just bashing him because he didn't have a degree in the so-called field of study. Right. So, Sitchin in his Earth Chronicles, which I have up here on the shelf, all right. Earth Chronicles series, the 12th planet, the Stairway to Heaven, the Wars of the Gods and Men, the Lost Realms, and Where Time Began. The arrival of the Anunna or the Anunnaki and their subsequent colonization of Earth is described in the King's List. And yes, I do have a copy of the Sumerian King's List on my personal laptop, all right? And you can go look at the dates and see how long these entities lived. This is not fiction. This is not lies. This is factual history that actually transpired, okay? And this is something that they don't teach you in these educational institutions, all right? They just don't. You have to go seek out this information. So it says, the King's List, one of the most remarkable and valuable documents available on our prehistoric ancestors. The King's List, which originated in the 3rd millennia BC, so they say, all right, was a political tract in which the primary aim was to give an account of the various dynasties that ruled in Mesopotamia in accordance with the theory that legitimate kingship could be transferred from city to city and could only reside in one city at a time. All right. If it founded and started here, where do you think it's going to end? We're always pointing over there in the Middle East. Nobody's talking about what's going on over here. All right. Where the Negroes live, where the American Indians live, where we are. Okay. Since many of its records of the 4th and 3rd millennia BC have been corroborated separately by archaeological evidence, the King's List has been accepted by many as a valuable historical document. The dean of the Sumerian Studies, the late Samuel Noah Kramer, another Jew, okay, has concluded that it provided unique information and that, if used with discrimination and understanding, provides us with a historical framework of an estimable value. His book, The Sumerians, also contains the most recent and complete version of the King's List. I think I have that book over, it might be on this side. An earlier list in the book of the Sumerian King's List by Thorkild Jacobson, okay, another Jew, also provides an analysis of the various god kings and variations which make up the king's list. All right. The so called king list records the names of the kings of Sumer and the lengths of their reigns from what was then to them the beginning of history, a time in the distant past when kingship descended from heaven and founded 5 cities in the Mesopotamia plain. All right. All right. Now I'm just saying, you got to do your research. All right. America is a true old world. I'm not going to debate with anybody because if you know, you know. All right. There's no convincing. People are going to lean into what they've been taught in their indoctrination, and some people will never be able to see it for what it really is. All right. They're always going to go by what was taught in these universities by the very people or the very system that is oppressing all of us. All right. When the educational system was founded, like I've said in many videos, Rockefeller said, and you go back and look it up. He said he didn't want a nation of thinkers. He wanted a nation of workers. Therefore, they had to come up with a set curriculum to teach people, all right? To teach them and to keep them in a system, all right? A perverse system, and so that they could work and make money for the wealthy, right? I'm just simply saying it's out there. Nobody wants to have this conversation though. See, and the reason why what things the way they are is because we have sellout Negroes. All right, yeah, I'm bashing the autochthonous race because the majority of the so-called black folk or melanated folk, the ones that are in my family who keep calling themselves African American and black girl magic, black girl this and that. I'm talking to you. All right. You guys are part of the freaking problem. All right. You're doing yourself a disservice. All right. And you're doing the race a disservice. And not only the race, you're doing mankind a disservice, right? Because you are believing in something and you're going to die fighting and believing in something that has absolutely been proven a lie. Okay. You see it or you don't. So it says the king's list then records an interruption when the flood swept over the land, an event which we know as the deluge of the Great Flood. The king's list then resumes the narrative as the kingship descended once more, presumably from an orbiting spaceship. It describes the kings and their reigns down to the part of the Isen dynasty, which began to rule about 1950 BC. It is generally believed that the Proto-Sumerians were the origin of our Western civilization and that these beginnings were in an area called Mesopotamia. All right. And you need to look up where the Mesopotamian area is. Okay. Well, if you know the Nile is the Mississippi, where do you think the Tigris and Euphrates River are? I'm just saying. I don't want to have to spell it out for you. Y'all need to do some research. If you know, you know. Literally, the land between the two rivers. The arrival of these gods is reported in the records, and that the descendants left behind the Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian cuneiform tablets. There are so many pyramids here in the Americas. We have more pyramids and mounds than any other continent around the world. Do you not know that there is a huge pyramid in California? All right, you can see it on you can see it on Google Earth. There is a huge pyramid in freaking Tennessee. There's a huge pyramid in Louisiana. There's a huge pyramid in North Carolina. I'm just telling you, there are pyramids every freaking where. And the crazy thing is, during the repopulation event, right, when so-called America was established in the 1700s, right, 1776, and all these treaties were made with our people, my people, right, my ancestors, which is me and you, they blew up a lot of buildings. A mud flood occurred, and a lot of these pyramids were buried, and we have built cities on top of them and freeways to go right. I posted several months ago a huge pyramid in North Carolina. When you're driving on the freeway there, you can look over to the mountain. You could see the damn pyramid right there in the steps. And people are just driving by looking, oh, it's just a big old mountain. That's geological rocks. Can't make this shit up. When you got some idiots when you got idiots really literally attempting to tell you something, but like I said, your eyes are useless if your mind is blind. You just got to see it. Either you see it or you don't. It says, and generally believe that the Proto-Sumerians were the origin of the Western civilization and that these beginnings were in the area called Mesopotamia, literally the land between the two rivers. The arrival of these gods is reported in the records that descendants left behind. The Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, cuneiform tablets. And I have read them all. I have read some of all of them. Let me put it that way. I've read each one of them in bits and pieces. I have not read the complete stories from beginning to end on all of them. I have read each individual text. I've read the Sumerian cuneiform tablets. I've read the Babylonian and the Akkadian. I have the Akkadian behind me here. But I'm just telling you, I have read them, but not in direct correlation or succession, one by one, back to back, back. I'll take time and read a few. I'll stop, go back, pull a tablet off a shelf and read it, go back, look at the stories, go back, read it, go to another book, cross-reference it. So that's what I have been doing, okay? I have done that, and I can say that. After the deluge, the Sumerian cities were rebuilt, okay, and resettled on the alluvial plain of Mesopotamia, since the oldest of these date back 3500 BC and was built on virgin soil, okay. It is clear that they were not built upon the ruins of former cities. This is due to the fact that the waters of the Persian Gulf have risen some 150 feet due to the effects of the deluge. And again, they're giving you what they say, what has been named, and what mainstream has told you that it was, right? Everybody's looking over these different continents, but nobody's talking about what's here in America in ground zero, all right? That's all I'm going to say. Inundating the former cities, it is a contention of the author that ancient antediluvian cities, as well as the original Garden of Eden, are under waters of the adjacent Persian Gulf. I'm going to say bullshit because I know for a fact there have been several men that I have followed on YouTube and looked up their information and done my research to say that the Garden of Eden is here in the United States. So-called United States. Okay? While the southern part of Mesopotamia came to be called Sumer, the area further of the plain at the near convergence of the two rivers was later called Akkad, or Akkadian city of Babalu, became quite prominent and gave the name to the entire region Babylonia. All right. The introduction of the intensive river canal system to irrigate and drain the plain gave rise to a dense population and the establishment of great culture. Utah was formerly known as Judah or Judah, a Judean. We are the Judeans here in the Americas, the Negro. All right. If you study the Grand Canyon and what they have blocked off where you cannot go and research how many pyramids are in the Grand Canyon, how much artwork and ancient pottery and underground cities are underneath the Grand Canyon, it would blow your mind. The introduction of the intensive river canal system to irrigate and drain the plain gave rise to a dense population and the establishment of a great culture right here, okay? The lower part of so-called Mesopotamia became a very fertile garden area, which the Sumerians called Eden, E-D-I-N, or the abode of the righteous ones. It was the location of and gave its name to the biblical Garden of Eden. Again, they're pointing you over there. You need to look at here in the Americas. And it says the language and origin of the myths. The Proto-Sumerians have been a puzzle to linguists and archaeologists. The language is agglutinative, not inflected like Semitic or Indo-European. In structure, it resembles Turkish, Chinese, and Finno-Ungarian in vocabulary, grammar, and syntax. However, Sumerian stands alone and seems not to be related to any of the known languages, living or dead. The philologists cannot identify any hypothetical homeland from which the Sumerians came. With their unique language and culture, it is as if they came from out of the blue. Literally speaking, the king list thus becomes more prominent and important in providing essential information on these early colonizers. Written Sumerian in a cuneiform style first appeared at the end of the 4th millennia and was raised until about 100 BC, more or less from scholarly and religious purposes. Akkadian, the Semitic language of the Babylonians and the Syrians, is nearly as old and was written in Mesopotamia from about 2400 BC to nearly 100 AD. Another ancient cuneiform language called Hittite is the earliest of the Indo-European languages to be preserved. The vast majority of the Hittite clay tablets found in ancient Hatsu, modern Bagazov Koy in Turkey, and I hope I said that right, date from about 1650 until about 1200 BC. Most of the texts we have to Sumerian stories which tell of flying serpents or dragons are from the Old Sumerian period from 2500 to 2200 BC, or the Neo-Sumerian period which preserved Old Sumer culture 2200 to 1900 BC. In the Old Babylonia and the Middle Babylonian periods, new versions of the myths appeared copied from earlier Sumerian stories. It's just the same iteration over and over, and they change the names. I'm just telling you that. The Babylonians tend to edit the older works, sometimes recasting them to fit their own traditions. Although the bulk of the texts of the myths are found in Semitic form, many sections and fragments have been found in the original Sumerian. It thus appears that most of the older myths were set down about 2500 BC after an indefinite period when they had been transmuted in the oral tradition. Originally, Sumerian was expressed in pictographs very much like the early hieroglyphs of Egypt and of China, suggesting a close association in the early days after the deluge. But due to the lack of a cheap and ample source of written materials such as papyrus and parchment, Sumerians had to written on clay tablets which were then baked for permanence. Due to the difficulty in drawing pictures on clay, it was found more expedient to draw a picture of the item represented by pressing a stylus in the wet clay, and thus cuneiform item represented by pressing the stylus in the wet clay, and thus cuneiform, was born. A large or small reed stylus, resembling somewhat of a modern golf tee, was used with the ends being pressed into clay at a slant. Huge numbers of the King's List and scriptures. All right, I'm going to read this off to you. The King's List attributes to the reign of legendary incredible lengths of many rulers of the early antediluvian kings. In this sense, it affirms the enormous lifespans of the patriarchs of the Old Testament. These lifespans in the Sumerian King's List has been source of wonder and puzzlement. By current standards, the numbers of the antediluvians are completely fanciful. And it's not, because I can tell you, Chief Redwolf said that he had family members and he knew of people that lived 200 years. All right. The story goes, God, so-called aka one of the Ananuna, Anunnaki, Enlil, and Enki, clamped down mankind's genetics code, the number 2 chromosome, to cut it and put in ad fillers and tighten it up like shoelaces, okay? And what they did was they shortened the lifespan from X amount of years to 120 years. Now people barely live to be 100 years old, if that. All right. I've had people in my family that have gotten to the 90s, 80s, 90s, and damn near 100s. Okay. But I think the oldest family member that I know personally was 96 when she passed. All right. It was my Aunt Stella. All right. Alex's grandfather, Mark's dad, I think he's 93 or 94. All right. He just had a birthday a few days before mine in April, right? So-called birthday. He is of the Anahuia. He's Anahuia bloodline. Okay. So let me read this off to you. Adam, 930 years. Seth, 912. Enos, 905. Kenan, 910. Mahel, 895. Jared, 962. Enoch, 365. Methuselah, 969. Lamech, 777. Noah, 950. The deluge happened, okay? That was the deluge. And you got Shem, 600 years. Aparahat, 438. Salah, 433. Eber, 464 years old. Peleg, 239. Reu, 239. Serug, 230. Nehor, 148. Terah, 205. Abram 175, Isaac 180, Jacob 147, Job 140, Levi 137, Moses 120, Joshua 110, David 70. I'm 56. If you want to say that. I'm actually older than that. I'm gonna tell you, I'm thousands of years old. But for this video, I'm 56. All right. I'm just telling you. So before the flood, you see the age range, right? Okay. After the last deluge, or one of the deluges, let me put it that way, because there were six. All right. Then you get down to these numbers to where you're 100 and something years old. And that's because they clamped down the number 2 chromosome. That's been proven. I posted an article about that months, if not years ago. Okay. So then it says, these lifespans in the Sumerian kings list has been a source of wonder and puzzlement. By current standards, the numbers of the ancient Libyans are completely fanciful. These huge numbers are consistent throughout the kings list and therefore seem not to be erroneous. While a rational explanation has thus far escaped historians, we know why. It ain't escaped shit. A critical thinker can put this shit together. Most researchers feel there must be some underlying logic to these large numbers, since a parallel can be found in the enormous lifespans of the antediluvian patriarchs. Like I said, he even wrote it in the scriptures, said he clamped down 120 years. Do I need to go get the scripture in Genesis and read that to y'all again? It says, it is entirely possible that these are not earth years as we know them. A divine year or year of An, okay, is often mentioned in the cuneiform tablets. And although not fully understood, it probably is not equivalent to our normal earth years. A reflection of this is found in the Old Testament Psalms 94, which one divine year is said to be the equivalent of 1,000 years. Well, I can tell you these so-called beings reigned every 3,600 years. They changed. Some will say 36,000 years, but I'm going to say 3,600. All right. It was not unusual for the ancients to compute time by other than normal earth years, such as, for example, the Book of Jubilees, where a jubilee year is equivalent to 50 regular years. They also have something called a char, C-H-A-R, all right? So you just got to do your research on that, okay? That is the equivalent to 7 week years. A week year was 7 years, which is the equivalent of 50 years, which is a jubilee, all right? And 1 year added for atonement, which all activities were supposed to cease. The King's List describes the activities of the antediluvian Anunnam as they descended from the skies from first established the city of Eridu, okay? And they do have a city over there in Iraq. Eridu is spelled with an I, but it's over there. It's over there. It's in shambles. You can go look it up on Google Earth. It looks like a hot mess. A couple of pieces of dead rocks and sand over there, right? And they've blown this whole earth to smithereens. I'm telling you. Okay, so it says, where 2 kings ruled for 64,800 years, Eridu was then abandoned as the capital, and the kingship was moved to Bad Tabira, which 3 kings reigned for 108,000 years. Then the kingship was moved to Larak, L-A-R-A-K, where 1 king ruled 28,800 years. A 4th city to become the capital was Sippur, S-A-P-P-I, AR, where 1 king reigned for 21,000 years. The kingship was then transferred to Sharupak, okay, where 1 king ruled for 18,600 years. Now, correct me if I'm wrong for y'all who've read this. Isn't Sharupak the place where your boy lived and Gilgamesh went to go see him? What's his name? Oh, God. Gilgamesh went to go see him after the deluge because he was considered to be a demigod and he wanted to live as long as him. Was it not Noah? Right? I think it was Noah, if I'm remembering right. Gilgamesh, with his little buddy, went to go see Noah and he asked him for the secret of life because he wanted to live it. And he said, if you die before you die, you will never die. And he gave him this plant. Told him where to go get this plant. He didn't give it to him. He told him where to go find it. Found the plant in the water. Laid the plant down. He was getting some water out of a pond. And what do you know? Out of a stream. And this damn reptilian snake comes up and steals it. Y'all got to read the story. I'm just giving you the high points. So the kingship was then transferred to Sharupak. All right. When 1 king ruled for 18,600 years. Thus, as the table, figure 17 summarizes, each king ruled over the 5 cities for a total of 241,200 years. The king's list then states laconically that the flood swept over the land, putting an end to all the activities. Now, these were not your average people. I don't care what you think. They were tapped into source, and they had these abilities that we have now been snipped. They have dumbed us down so much in these avatars now. But what we used to be able to do was 100 times of what we can do now. I'm just going to tell you. Like, when you look at the stuff, you're going to be looking at stuff on TV going, oh, that's a superhero. Oh, that's not. That's us. They got to tell you what they're doing and put it in front of you so you can buy into it, because they think they can circumvent the karma that's getting ready to come down on their asses. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay? So, it says, these numerical systems were sexagasmal in character, and they made use of the factor of 10 as well as 6. Thus, the sequence 1, 10, 60, 360, 600, 3600 takes on a special meaning in this mythology. Well, they like to say it's mythology, but it's really true. If the duration of the various terms of kingship are presented graphically, it becomes obvious that the sexagasmal system underlying the fabulous numbers of the king's list in figure 17, called a shar, which is what I was telling you about, Shar, but I've seen it spelled Char too, by the Sumerians. The number 3600 appears to have been a special meaning in this list. All right. It can be seen that with slight adjustment, the years of reign of the Sumerian kings are divisible by the number. It indicates that the term of the reign for the Sumerian antediluvian king was presumably a shar, which probably reserves about, like I said, 3,600 years. There are some people that have argued, mainstream has argued that it's 36,000 years. I'm telling you, I read 3,600, and this book says 3,600. I got other books over here that say 3,600. I'm going to say it's 3,600. Even when you read the Sumerian Kings list online, which I did pull up on a video, you got to go back and look at it. I showed you where to go, set up an account, how to open it up, how to read it, how to download the tablet and put it on the screen, and I read it to you. All right? I read it to you. So you can't say Miss Nisi didn't show you, because I did. In the theories of Sitchin, the cycle of 1,800 years is extremely important to the Anunnaki, for it represents the orbit of their home planet Nibiru, which returns to our solar system every 3,600 years. Now, if you want to buy into this shit, I was so called into that too. I was on the bandwagon talking about, I see a Nibiru planet coming in down, and we were looking for it, and cataclysm's going to happen. I done bought through all of that, and I done went through it, and I done prayed on it, I done meditated on the creator of all, and gave me what I needed from that. And I'm telling you in a short version, everything that we see in the sky is a projection. You got to go do your research. Like Chief says, really and truly, if you look at the sun and the moon, it's like 63 to 70 miles up above us. That's not what they've been taught. That's not what they teach us. They teach us that we're a spirit going through space at thousands of miles. When I'm really telling you that a brother took a plane up, and he got up there and he showed you where the sun was, and mysteriously his ass is gone. I'm just going to say it. I don't know if they're alive, the brother, or not, but I'm just going to tell you. What we see in the sky is a projection. And it's a projection of what really truly exists. Okay? And that's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want to get off topic. My point is that you have to take this information in, and you have to use it, and you have to chew it up, and you have to use your discernment in how you analyze these things. All right? In theories, the Stitchin says the cycle of 1,800 years is extremely important to the Anunnaki. The Nibirians, the Anunnaki, are the custodians, the Edamans, the Greys. Oh, there's probably about, 7 to 10 different races of beings of, I'm going to say for this video, alien, but they're not really alien. Let's just say they're interdimensional beings, okay? And they have this whole area on lock, because the majority of the beings that we see on TV are actually reptilian. Your Hollywood singers, your politicians, your military people, They are of reptilian bloodline. They are reptilians. They shapeshift. I know how that sounds, people, but you gotta get past this shit because you gotta start consuming this information. You gotta take it in and you gotta research it. You gotta know this information like the back of your hand. You gotta know it. So it's important because every 3,600 years, the rotation or changing of the guard happens. Well, you see all this shit on TV, like with Trump and with Putin and that Zelensky fellow that dresses up with red heels and dresses and shit like that. You got to know that they're of that bloodline and they're there for a reason to do the things that they're doing with a distraction to keep us enthralled and to keep us looking outwardly. God forbid you go within yourself and you start to realize what the hell this is and you wake up. I'm just saying. Now it says the Sumerian cities were reason or purpose brought these alien beings or the Anuna here, because I can give you some theories and I can tell you where to go look, but I'm not. I'm just going to read straight from this book. As they called themselves to this planet, we do not know. Okay. There's multiple reasons why they came. All right. Let's just say that they could do it and they came just for the hell of it. Because they could, they did it. All right. But from these legends and myths, they're not myths, that's truth. Okay. We can deduce that it was probably for commercial purposes. All right. Because they could do it. They did it because they could. The functions of these early cities would suggest that they came here to obtain gold, silver, and other rare minerals, which this Earth dome has, as other domes beyond the ice walls have as well. This planet is much bigger than what they've told us. All right. There's islands in other countries that are not on the world map, but actually exist in this world. All right. Get it through your thick skulls. I'm just telling you. So it says, the function of the early cities would suggest they came here for gold, silver, precious metals, rare metals. And in the work, The 12th Planet, Sitchin developed the concept that the antediluvian cities were associated with the need of the Anunnaki for metals. Okay. These 5 antediluvian cities of the King's List were all related to a production and shipment of metal. Interesting enough, you can go out there and take Google Earth right now and go look at the oldest diamond mine over there in Africa. There's one here in the United States too. They call it the Absu, when you go down in the mine or whatever. It's still there. All right. It's still there, you guys. It's still there. Companies have the rights. They own the rights now and countries own it. Countries and companies. But the mines are still there. And these mines are very old. That's no lie. That's real talk, because I went and I researched them and I looked up the companies, right, and who they're tied to, because I'm a nerd like that. In the work, The 12th Planet, Sinchi developed the concept that the antediluvian cities were associated with the need of the Anunnaki for metals. Okay, now the headquarters city as a metal production center, a missile platform, a flight control center, a medical center, which they did have all that. Okay, Sitchin further suggests that the need for gold was essential for the survival of their home planet Nibiru, to be used to prevent their waning atmosphere from being decimated. All right. A Sumerian story which deals with the creation of the world describes the first city built on earth. When the kingship had come down from the heaven, On founded the 5 cities, gave them their names, apportioned their uses. The first of these cities, Eridu, he gave for the leader Nimamud, or epitaph Enki, my boy Inky, because I read his letter. I read that like 4 years ago to y'all. Okay. Y'all need to go look up that video on YouTube. Eridu was the first city built on the planet, which probably gave our world its name, Earth, or Key. All right. Third planet in our solar system, which is what they like to tell us, because they made this whole thing up, right? To distract us. The origin of the word Earth is unknown and its origin lost in antiquity, but logically and linguistically, it can be traced back to Eridu. For example, in Old German Earth in Irida or Erithi, the Middle English era in Greek, Iridis in Aramaic, and Eretz in Hebrew, to name just a few. And he said it in his own memoirs, why he named it what he named, okay? You just got to go do the research, all right? So it says, it seems that all theological roads lead back to the first city built on the planet by our alien forefathers, Eridu. Now they want to give you the name Eridu and they want to point you over in the Middle East. I'm going to point you here in the US. That's all I'm going to say for the video, okay? It was from Eridu that Enki directed all operations on Earth as he surprised the draining of the marshlands, the raising of the cities, the establishment of agriculture. There are hundreds of gardens all around the world, especially here in North America, as well as over there. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, you got to go research the Hanging Gardens, which they want to always point you over there where Saddam was, but you got to look over here in the Americas. All right. And it says animal husbandry, agriculture, and the development of mines, presumably in Africa. They have them here in the States, okay, in the Carolinas, which is better known as North and South Kakalaki, okay, which is the true California, not the California we have today. And it says in Africa, including the transportation of the ores and the processing of the ores at Bad Tabira. Bad Tabira are the place where the ores are processed in Sumerian, retaining kingship for the longest time on all these cities, almost half the period recorded before the deluge, indicative of the primary importance in the scheme of things. Laruk was the third city assigned the kingship and was the space control center for the complex, where they had their ships, their air vessels that would come down and mine this location for gold and take it through the portals beyond the ice walls to the other domes, okay, the other dome structures, all right? And it says, little is known of the city, and like Bad Tabira, has not been located archaeologically. Sepur was a platform for the space shuttles, especially those hauling metal cargo. One of the Sumerian myths states that the city was built for the god Utu, one of the major gods, also known by the Semitic name Shamash. When the space activities were moved to the west after the deluge, Shamash reappeared at Baalbek in Lebanon, where they became the New Eden and the home of the gods. Sharupak, or the place of the utmost well-being, was dedicated to the chief nurse and medical officer of the expedition, the goddess Nimhertzog, better known as Isis. I can't make this shit up. I know this like the back of my hand. I probably could then just read this book and just tell you, but I'm going to keep it going. She was deeply involved with Enki in producing a primitive man to be the labor of the gods. Took the hairy barbarian, aka the Sasquatch. Okay, all right. Sasquatch is not a cryptid, all right. Sasquatch and their reptilian, and then you get these templates. If you want to buy into that narrative, I'm just saying. All right. Then it says, Uruk was the ceremonial center for the Anuna and the home of the great god An when he was on earth. Okay. He seems to have disappeared from Pantheon after the deluge, and the city was taken over by Inanna, his granddaughter, who used it for her base of operations where she hatched her many famous schemes. You got to read the book. It reads like As the World Turns on this mug. Nippur was the city of Enlil, where he ruled for Inkur, or the house of the mountain. From here, he exercised supreme authority over all the Anuna on earth before the deluge. In one of the hymns dedicated to Enlil, there was a graphic description of the control center bristling with communication and other electronic equipment. From the heights of the Inkur, it was said that Enlil's eyes scanned the land. Oh, yeah. Y'all know about the black light satellite, right? That orbits the planet. Or orbits the dome, let me put it that way. Just saying, all seeing eyes. They watching me on video right now. Holla at your girl, what's up? and his lifted beam searches the heart of all lands. This is strongly indicative of a communications or control center. See, I told you, there ain't nothing new under the sun. The city of Nippur was rebuilt after the deluge, but at a different location. Nippur is where, according to the Hebrew apocalypse of Enoch, the Lord kept the Shekinah or spacecraft. Shekinah or spacecraft. This being also the entrance of the Garden of Eden until the days of Enoch. Then he abruptly left for heavenly abode, never to return except on special occasions. It was also at Nippur, at the river Shabar, that Ezekiel saw the fiery chariot, okay, described so vividly in the book of that name. Have y'all read the book of Enoch? It's pretty good. And have y'all read the book of the Ezekiel? Have you read that? Every Sumerian city was dedicated to a major god. They had a pantheon of those mugs. Okay, I'm just going to tell you who served as its protector and benefactor. There was a special secure area with a great court wherein were the palaces and the temples. And the city was a ziggurat, which we call a pyramid nowadays, okay? Which overlooked the city. The ziggurat was a stepped artificial mountain or pyramid, okay, raising from the treeless plain. On its lower levels, there were quarters for the priesthood. They controlled the whole wealth of the state. Its ranks included an archivist, teachers, scribes, scholars, mathematicians, and other functionaries. Atop the ziggurat, there was a sacred temple. In it, the center was an antechamber or cella, the Holy of Holies, and was reserved for the gods to rest when they were on earth. Okay, and incidentally, the Canaan, the gods from the Canis Major, I want to say the dog people. Reptilians had a hand in it too, but the dog people brought the weed here to the planet. You know, the herb, the 420, they brought it here because they utilized it. All right. That plant is not from here. All right. I'm just saying. Just telling you. Just a little tidbit. So it says atop the ziggurat there was a sacred temple. In the center of its antechamber or cella is the Holy of Holies and was reserved for the gods to rest where they were on earth. It was here that they mated with selected humans. Because you know Inky was a hoe. I can do a whole video on Inky and his hoedisms. I'm just telling you. I might just do that. I might just do that just for the fun of it. Okay? So y'all will really know how much of a hoe he really was. I'm telling you, I can't even go there right now. I'm just going to tell you, the brother was a hoe. Every time you look up, he was screwing somebody. Anyway, where they made it with selected humans in order to produce a race of demigods, okay, to serve as the kings, generals, and other intermediaries. These acted as a buffer with mankind, all right? All the great heroes of Mesopotamia claimed to be the issue of a god, an immortal. These beings were called changelings. There's a movie out on Netflix called Changeling, or is it on Apple TV? Y'all got to check that out. The hero Gilgamesh often boasted that his mother was the goddess Ninsun, another great hero. Sargon the Great of the Akkad dynasty also claimed to be a changeling and the child of a mortal and a goddess. Oh, there's a bunch of changelings walking around with us, y'all. I think I know a couple of changelings. I ain't even gonna say. I'm not even lying. I'm being 100 with you. I mean, this stuff, you know, it reads like a fantasy novel, but this stuff is absolutely 100% true. Okay. Next when I come back, I'm gonna read chapter 7. It's like 2 pages. It's the Sumerian names for dragons. I'm at 45 minutes or 47 minutes, and I don't want to go an hour. I just wanted to read that chapter to you all, and I had to give you my little theatrics here. You know, I love talking about this stuff because I'm so geeky about it. I'm so geeky. I love it. And the thing about it is that it's sad that a majority of people don't know this stuff. They don't, it doesn't intrigue them. They would rather go out to a club, drink, smoke, you know, stay high, get drunk, go to work, bet on football, you know, do whatever humans do, for lack of a better word, and stay stuck on stupid and not grow spiritually, mentally, and feed your soul. You know, me knowing these things and talking about these things, I always tell you the reason why I do it is because if you don't know your past, then you're doomed to repeat it over and over again. See, the problem with the so-called quote unquote dark race, melanated race, black race is that, you know, we have some sellout individuals, sellout Negroes. They got a little bit of something, a little bit of paper, a little bit of money, and they're trying to dictate to everyone else, and they're in cahoots with these Zionists who are ran by the custodians, who are none other than the Anunnaki, the Nibirians, the Edomans, the Greys. There's like 7 different races of reptilians, all right? Multiple races of reptilians. I could go into them, and I probably will at some point. But my point is that the reason why I talk about these things, and it may sound fantastical to some of you, is because, again, We are doomed to repeat the same fucking mistakes if we don't learn from what has been written and what has been put in place. Yes, everything has been changed. Every book has been changed. Everything has been rewritten. But it behooves you to study this information and then ask the creator of all to give you the insight and the knowledge that you need and the discernment that you need, right? This world is not what you think it is, and it's in a downward spiral, and it's because of these entities, right? They've been allowed to do this by the Great Spirit, and I would say it's a test for us because we have to snap about the coma, and we really got to get back to source. And the only way to get back to source is to study these things and then to go inward and take time and sit with the creator of all. All right. We are gods incarnate, but we will die like men and we will die like princes. Men. We will die like simple men because we know not the truth and we don't know the truth, and they have done a good job at trying to cover their tracks and distracting millions, if not billions of people. And like Chief said today in his live, how did he say it? What did he say? He said, there are some people that cannot be saved, and that there are some people who are here, and I'm putting it in my own words. I'm summing it up by my own understanding. Not everybody's meant to be saved. Not everybody can be saved. Not everybody will receive this message. Not everybody will understand this or understand this. And they will call it cannon fodder, and they will call it bull hockey, and they'll say bullshit, it's entertainment, whatever. But truth be known, if you do your research, you'll see that we've been lied to over and over again. And we are a great nation. We are great people. Okay. Whether you are light skinned, pale skinned, or melanated like me, we are all sentient beings. Even the reptilians are sentient beings, all right? They're just on a different dimensional aspect. They're on a different plane of existence. It hurts me because I get sad because there are so many children out there that are not being taught the truth. They're not being taught the truth. And if you do talk about these things, then you're ostracized and you're looked down upon, right? And so with that, my dear friends and family, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to keep going on talking about it, other than the fact that I want to say that we are eternally bonded. I still use the word love, Chief. We are eternally bonded, and I appreciate you taking the time out to listen to me read for this chapter that we just read. I hope it was very informational, very informative for you. When I come back, I'm going to do another reading, and it's not going to be as long. It's only a couple of pages, all right? And then I want to get into Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids because there's a lot of information in here that most people don't even know. And I find it very fascinating. Just these two books alone, take a screenshot. You could spend a couple of years going through research on these two. I'm just telling you. Anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing day. And remember what I always say. Be the change you want to see all around this Earth Dome, because it's up to you and I to make a positive change. And I'll talk to you guys soon.